I'll just throw some questions at you and we'll just go in order because I said to House on Thursday night, the first thing to me is Kobe versus Curry for number 9 all time for me is now in play. I still think Kobe has him on the totality of all the stuff he did during his career. Like if you actually really look at some of the Kobe stuff, it's pretty the all NBA stuff and things like that is pretty crazy with him. Kobe, he's finals MVP, obviously no 9. He was the first or second best player in 5 champs. He made 2 other finals. He was top 5 MVP vote 11 times. And he was first team all NBA 11 times. Second team twice. Third team twice. Curry won the back-to-back MVPs. Best or second best player and 4 champs and 2 runners-up. 4 times first team all NBA, 3 times second team, 1 time third team. So I still have Kobe at 9. I looked at it. I tried to factor in the whole piece about Curry, how he changed the way basketball was played, how he's succeeded Tim Duncan as the greatest teammate you could possibly have, all the great shooting stuff with him, the 25-0 winning streak, the 73 wins, the 3 years in a row when they were like 207 and 39 from 15 to 17. Like the peak of Steph's teams, I think, were better than really any Kobe Lakers peak, other than maybe that stretch in the second half of the 2001 season. But I still have Kobe ahead of him. So I'll start there. What do you have?
I have him ahead of Kobe. I have him behind Magic, which I think we should also touch on at some point too, because Andre Iguodala going, okay, now he's the best point guard of all time. Magic's resume here is getting completely overlooked.
Yeah, I'm not ready to go near that.
So it's not even a debate yet for me on the Steph. Magic one. Steph Kobe, I think, is a real debate. Now, this is very clear bias. If you're a Kobe guy, you're just not hearing it, right? You're talking the defensive gap. It's different. It's all those things. I'm admitting my bias as being more pro Steph because I think Steph, and it depends on really what you want to factor in with the top 10 evaluation of all time players, because it starts to get like you start having to make little arguments against the other guy who's also phenomenal, right? Which isn't always fun to do. So do you factor in what somebody means for a franchise, how much better he makes every other player? I don't know. I don't know if you do or not. Like, if I'm a Kobe stan, I'm saying defense, the gap, I don't want to hear it. If I'm a Steph guy, I'm saying never asked for a trade. The easiest superstar to play with in his generation, it may be beyond. He or Duncan, I think, obviously Duncan is in the conversation there too. The stats, like Steph has better stats. He just does. His playoff averages, granted, he's played like almost 90 less games than Kobe had by the time he had retired, but a higher scoring average, more rebounds a game, more assists a game. They shot it close, but Steph still has the edge, and then, of course, from 3. You look at some of the net rating stuff, even when Kevin Durant was his teammate, Steph had the number 1 playoff net rating in 17 and 18. In 15, it was number 2 behind Draymond, which is also because of Steph. He was 8th this year in this playoff run. Going back to 15, 16, it obviously dipped. It wasn't as good. Toronto wasn't as good. But that's 4 times we're talking about him essentially being like the number 1 guy that you would want out there. And there's something as simple as to say, hey, how come every time this guy's out there, his team wins all these games? So if you want to take away what you are as the face of the franchise, meaning the buy-in part of it, then that's advantage Kobe, because Steph doesn't have that summer of anger where Kobe was like, I'm out. I don't know that Kobe made his teammates better. And I think when shit got tough,
Kobe was a pretty terrible teammate for a long time there. There's a lot of documentation.
All you have to do is read any book. Read any book. You read any Phil
Jackson book, read the Perlman book. There's a lot of stuff out there.
The last Perlman book is almost every single teammate and coaching staff at some point being incredibly frustrated with Kobe here. And so
I think the difference with the two of them, though, is that, and by the way, I'm with you. For the bias side of me, I would take Curry every time. I just think you have an easier chance to win with him. I think he fits in with more people, better ways. You don't have to tailor things around him.
He's never going to shut down on you.
No.
By the way, like Kobe's got some weird playoff stuff on his resume.
He does.
Where you're like, what the hell happened there? Like I went through it. There's a handful of them there. Now, if Steph keeps playing, Steph keeps playing here, and I don't even want to count all the Kobe losses at the end. He missed a full season. The team stunk. He had a weird.
Is it fair to say Kobe better career so far? But I think
Yes.
Steph's 8 to 9 years, I think, is better than any Kobe 8 to 9 years.
Yeah, but if you're going total numbers, right? I mean, first of all, you're right. Because when I say, hey, the numbers are better, like I was surprised across the board, Steph was basically better in every average for playoff career stuff. But it probably will dip down as Steph ages. And so maybe Kobe ends up surpassing him when it's all said and done. But who would I want to be the face of my franchise? Who would I be psyched about having other guys play with? It's Steph. But as of now, if you're telling me you still think Kobe's full resume is still ahead of Steph's, I'm not going to scream and yell about it.
The Steph stuff, his career, I mean, he's at 20,000 points already. We did the Book of Basketball pod about him, and some of the numbers have already shifted in ways we predicted, right? He's the only guy over 3,000 threes regular season. For his career is 47, 43, 91. His win shares per 48 is 0.203, 62.4% true shooting. It seems like he's going to get at least 25K points and 4,000 threes if he's healthy. And then the playoff numbers are fantastic. I mean, he's played 134 games at this point, 6 finals. He's 27, 5, and 6 in the playoffs. He's 45, 40, 89 percentage. He's made 4.2 threes a game. He's made 561 threes, most ever. 152 threes in the finals, most ever. All the shooting stuff with him and the efficiency stuff, it's hard to imagine anybody topping it. And I think that's going to be one of the things. He just needs a couple more years. I think he's going to pass Kobe for me probably in the next 2 years. And then the Magic thing will be the more interesting one because I just think Magic's Mount Rushmore, I think, for the NBA has to have 5 guys, and he's on it. He just is. My pantheon right now, MJ, LeBron, Russell, Kareem, Magic. If I had my Mount Rushmore starting 5, Bird, Duncan, Chamberlain, Kobe, and Steph's 10. And then Durant, West, Robertson, Olajuwon, Shaq, and Moses. And I probably have Durant too high. That's my 16. I think those are the 16 best players ever.
Yeah, Steph has the highest true shooting percentage in a finals ever by a guard with 100 or more attempts, and that's against the supposed defensive player of the year and the number 1 defense in the regular season. All right. He's number 2 in finals average, which is another weird thing with Steph, because right up until this year, which is the part that I enjoyed for Steph, you're like, wait, so now he has the second highest scoring average behind Michael Jordan in finals history? Because Steph is held to this impossible standard. He has a bad night shooting, which he usually has like one game in a series where you're like, what the hell happened tonight?
Game 3, 2018, he was like 3 for 16.
And this is kind of back to like the peak LeBron, Steph stuff. Because here's Steph like doing stuff we've never seen before. He's winning back-to-back MVPs, and you're going, wait, is he actually the single best player? Well, he's having the best seasons. But that's why I think LeBron took it so personal and why 16 is always going to mean so much to him. And there was the block in that series where it was kind of like, hey, fuck this. Like, you actually think this guy's better than me? Like, I get what he's doing. And that's where the separation between LeBron and Steph, like, I'm just not having it. Like, if LeBron needed to do something physically, he's just capable of stuff that Steph isn't capable of, especially even back then, where I don't think Steph is nearly the driver then that he is now, despite, the handle seeming just as tight. So you've got all these new numbers. StatMuse on Twitter. I thought Aisha was running the site there for like a day because it was just every single thing. You're like, wait, Steph is what? And where does he rank in the finals? He's got the highest 3-point percentage in a finals series ever with 50 or more 3-point attempts. That's with an 0 for 9 game 5 in there, and he still has the record. So it just was this barrage of stuff historically where I think any Steph fan, even if you're from the Northeast or Mass, you're going, all right, it was a very weird, it was like watching Chris Long play for the Eagles against the Pats for me. I had a hard time with it, but the Magic stuff is where I will stop listening to you. And I get Iguodala is doing it for his teammate, but Magic Johnson's resume doesn't get enough credit because of the Jordan part of it. Magic, for 12 straight years, before he retired for 4 years because of the HIV test, and he came back and played at 36 and 32 games. Magic's Lakers team averaged 15.93 wins per season over 12 years. And in those 12 years, they made it to 9 finals with a couple MVPs in there on top of everything else. This is where the Jordan 6-0 shit can get really annoying. If Magic were 6-3 in finals, would we say it's still worse than Jordan's? Like, granted, MJ's got 6, Magic's got the 5, but for whatever reason, because the stats maybe, Bill, just don't back up the Magic decade.
No, we do have stats. We have 2 stats.
Okay, go for it.
they made the finals at 9 to 12 years. They won 5. But his winning percentage, it's the highest ever of anyone. His winning percentage, he finished at .7728. He won 72.8% of his games. The next
it feels
one
like there's a reason, right?
The next one was Bird at 71.5, Russell at 70.7, and Duncan at 70.5. Those are the only guys ever who won 70% of their games. And this is why I value Duncan so much. If Duncan was on your team, you won 50 games. I think we can safely say if you have Steph with good teammates, you're probably going to win 50 games because of all the stuff he does. And I think, to me, the thing that was so important about the finals MVP for him wasn't that he won the finals MVP and we put that stupid argument to bed. It was how fucking great he was in the finals. That game 4 he played was one of the best games anyone's played in the finals in the last 20 years. And it was so important because the Celtics, not only did they blow it, but he tilted the series and kind of broke them. It was the first time they were like, we don't have a guy as good as this guy. We're not going to win the series.
All right, you're saying that, but do you think it's better than Giannis in the clinching game, making every single one of his free throws?
No, I think that Giannis game is there too. Okay. I think, what are there, like 8, 9, 10 great finals games that we've had this century? And I think that's one of them. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done all the homework on that, but I would have to put that game in there.
I love that you love LeBron's game 1 and 18, right?
Oh my God. Well, I think because I was there and just the physical force that he was doing it with. But and
I'm not saying you're wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. No, listen. What he did was, for the people that believed the whole time that he was just completely different and that some of this stuff was unfair, I just think the way his teammates played off him and played for him, and that was a point Kerr really made, that these guys wanted it for Steph so bad. There's only a couple guys ever that have had that kind of connection with their team. And I the other piece, just him staying there the whole time, you and I care about that. I think there's something to it, like I think that title for him and that team probably means more than just switching teams and winning a title somewhere else. The same thing with Giannis the year before, when it's the team that drafted you and you tried to build something and they tried to build around you and you had some ups and downs and you had some tough losses and then you win. It just means more.
I wonder if there's a lesson there with the Durant thing, because
there is.
The way Kobe gets discounted, like if you don't like Kobe, I don't do it to him because I don't think it's fair, but you go, well, Shaq was the guy in the first 3 and it's not Kobe. And it's like, man, nobody does this by themselves. That's why I would, if we were doing any of the Jordan stuff, which I don't really want to argue against him at all. Like his resume of help is just not what some of these other teams are. And that's why I think it's always kind of funny where if you're pro LeBron, you'll argue, well, Durant just went there and helped Steph. Because, again, I didn't even think there was a Steph LeBron argument to actually be had after this, even with the 4th ring, because I just watched them both. And as much as I love Steph, LeBron's a better basketball player. Like, it's okay to say it out loud. But when you have KD come to you, even when it's your thing and you don't really need him, because the other thing that people make mistake with is that if they hadn't grabbed KD, guess what? They would still have Barnes, who was the prequel to Wiggins. They would have figured out the center position with either flipping Bogut or adding some other piece. But, now when you have Draymond, Clay, and Steph making all that money with Durant, then it changes what you can do on the margin. So they would have done a good job. They would have figured it out. They still would have had a really good team despite blowing the 3-1 lead, considering they're coming off a 73
They still win in 17, I think.
Yeah, right. So I agree with you. So they didn't really need Durant, but the Durant part of it diminishes it for Steph, despite a lot of numbers showing you that even if Steph wasn't peak KD, that Steph was still the engine that made this thing go and made KD's life easier. It's just what happens.
You know what it did, though? I still think that's the best team I've seen.
I agree.
And I think that's what the KD thing did, and people like to shit on it now, but it's the best basketball team we're probably going to see in the modern shooting era. I mean, you could separate it by eras, and if you're going to go more post-up physical era, you'd probably go 86 Celtics or 96 Bulls, whatever. I always thought the 0-1 Lakers were pretty magical. The last half of that season, they were just like when Shaq and Kobe were aligned like that, it was pretty special. But do you think, let me ask you though, but do you think the next, I don't know if we're going to have another team that wins 70 plus games and whatever has a no, because there's too much talent now.
Okay. But do you think there'll be somebody that goes, actually, I don't want to share? Like, I don't want to share the spotlight because I think Steph, up until this series, it was, he's got his one, but KD was there. I mean, we know how the arguments work for all of this stuff.
I think part of the problem with Steph is he probably didn't care enough about this stuff.
Which is also
he was just
why
like, whoa, Kevin Durant wants to play with us? Awesome. Even like he was so amused those first 2 years with all the Durant stuff. I remember when we did one of the podcasts and Durant did the blog boy rant that became a thing on the internet, and we made the t-shirts like for fun. And Curry reached out and was like, can I have a blog boy t-shirt? And he wore it. Like he just like really enjoyed how kind of out there Durant was. He's just who he is. You mentioned the LeBron thing. LeBron's better than Curry. There's an awesome argument, though. This is my next Curry question. Was Curry the best player of the last 10 years? Because I think people would say LeBron was. But we have a full decade now of Curry, 2013 through 2022. LeBron, those 10 years, 3-4 in the finals. Curry was 4-2 in the finals. LeBron made 7 first teams, 1 second team, and 2 third teams, one of which he should not have made. Curry made 4 first teams, 3 second teams, 1 third team. LeBron won 1 MVP. Curry won 2. LeBron had 7 top 5 finishes. Curry had 4 in MVP. Curry had the 73-win Warriors thing, which is its own mark that I think becomes first paragraph of whatever his legacy is. LeBron had the 27-game winning streak with Miami, which is still incredible, and I actually think has become underrated. LeBron made 6 straight finals during that stretch. Curry had the 207-39 record for 3 straight seasons. LeBron had the 3-1 finals comeback. Curry had just all kinds of records for 3-point shooting. LeBron did 3 teams. Curry was the 1 team the whole time. LeBron started the player empowerment thing. Curry changed basketball the way it was played. LeBron was the GOAT durable guy. Curry was the GOAT shooter. The points are pretty similar. 18K for LeBron, 16.9 for Curry. Win shares, LeBron slightly better. Points more. Playoffs, 29-9-8 for LeBron in the playoffs. Curry was 27-5-6. Best teammates, LeBron had AD, Wade, Bosh, Kyrie, and Love. Curry had KD for 3 years, Clay, Iggy, Draymond, and Wiggins. Writing all down, Russillo, it was way closer than I expected. I just would have assumed it was LeBron, but I think it's probably LeBron by a hair, but it's really close. I was surprised.
Yeah, this is making the simple thing complicated, which happens probably too much because it's just cooler. And you're right, like the resumes, you go, whoa. And then if you really want to hammer the finals thing, but I don't think that's what this is. The simple question is, who's been the better player the last 10 years? And it's LeBron.
But Curry's in there.
I didn't think it was going to be a landslide.
I wouldn't have expected. Yeah. Best 21st century players. LeBron, Curry, Duncan, Kobe. Would you have KD as your 5th? Best players of the 21st century. Our nominees are KD, Dirk, Wade, and you could take Giannis too, even though it's like less than a decade of him. Or Chris Paul you could go with if you wanted.
In the 5? So wait, are we doing starting 5 or the last 10 years?
No, I'm going century, 21st century. So you could take 9 years of Shaq too if you wanted. I think LeBron, Curry, Duncan, Kobe have to be the 4, but the 5th spot is pretty fun.
I have no problem with Durant. Like I thought, because we got extensive homework assignments, so I just want to make sure I made Bill proud on this one. I thought we were doing starting 5 of the last 10 years, which you can do both, obviously.
We can do, let's do both.
Right. Kobe's in there, Duncan's in there. Like I would always kind of lean Duncan over Steph and Kobe at this point. But
Me too.
I don't know. Like what I wouldn't want to do with Duncan the same way we don't with Magic is compare it. Like, well, he was kind of an older school and the game's moved. Well, okay, but for whatever it was for 15 years, this guy was the guy you wanted.
Yeah.
And the extension of Duncan's career, which was as surprising in the moment as probably any of these superstars. Like there were times there in the late aughts where you thought, okay, well, how many more? Like the 13 and 14 runs from this team were not expected after they were finishing up.
And 12, they're up 2-0 in the finals, and it just completely fell apart. But that team was really good for 3 straight years.
Yeah. And I don't know that any of us expected that, maybe even at the end of 2007. So Duncan might be my first pick out of all the guys. just because. Well, no, I can't say that.
No, LeBron.
Yeah, LeBron.
Duncan's
LeBron
the
would
second
be one.
pick.
Yeah,
I think that's the 5. If you went last 10 years, though, it's still Curry and LeBron.
okay, this will be interesting because I think there's a pretty solid 4, and then statistically there's supposed to be a 5th, and I didn't put him on there, which is not
Giannis.
shocking.
Do you have Giannis?
No, I do have Giannis. I mean, granted, it took him a little bit longer to get going. It was year 4 before he really stood out. 6 straight All-Star games, 2 MVPs. Embiid, he's only played 5 full seasons. So he's been in the league 8, missed a year, played 31 games.
I wouldn't.
It's crazy to think. No, but I wouldn't have him over Giannis. So I think it's Steph, it's LeBron, it's Durant, it's Giannis, and then I went Chris Paul over Harden. Harden is number 1 in win shares. He's number 1 in points, but the Russillo shares model has him at 31% officiating boost production. Our models are different over here. And Chris Paul had 32 and 17 in a playoff game once.
Anytime we talk about history and Harden and whatever list, it just starts for me with they quit on 2 teams. I just can't get past it, and I would penalize them for that.
So who's your starting 5 of the last 10?
For me, Jokic would probably be on there.
Over Giannis?
No, I had Giannis and Jokic.
Over KD? Who are you taking out then?
Didn't you have LeBron and Curry?
LeBron, Curry, Durant, Giannis, Chris Paul.
I think I would have Jokic over Chris Paul.